Aloha.
I love those. I really do love those. Hi, Jonathan. How you doing today?
I'm
Hi,
great.
everybody out there watching, or that will be watching us shortly. My name is Bobby, with Robert Fierro Tarot, and you are watching Behind the Cards. And on Behind the Cards, I like to talk to people in the spiritual community about their spiritual path, what brought them to where they are now. And I do that using the Fool's Journey. The major arcana cards are archetypes, and we're going to apply them and see where it takes us. So I would like to introduce everybody to Jonathan Dailey, my guest. Hey, Jonathan, what's up, yo? This is
Aloha,
actually
Bobby.
our first time meeting, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah. I mean, we've kind of chatted in
I
other
should
people's
mention that
lives.
I'm sure everybody,
No.
right? I should mention, John, and if in case you haven't seen him, which I find hard to believe, he's all over the internet, all over YouTube. He is in Hawaii, and I am jealous on that simple fact right there. I am in the desert of Arizona, and so,
Well, I feel for you.
um, Jonathan, say hello to a couple people before we get started. I see some comments happening. Hold on. Oh, Angie's here. What up, girl? And
And
she says, "Hey, Bobby. Hi, Jonathan. Jezebel Von Tex. Hey, did I come in at the beginning? Yes, you came in at the beginning for once. I feel you. Tarot Stash Gerald.
Gerald.
What's up, my buddy? It's my computer lately, so I apologize for that. My little blackouts keep happening. I've almost got this all down. I'm working towards getting a computer, but so everybody watching has seen the show, and we are well. First of all, Jonathan, tell me about yourself. Your current situation. What's going on in your life right now?
So I live in Maui with my husband Frank, who's a veterinarian, and our adorable son Apollo. We've actually had him since birth, and our adoption is part of a BBC documentary, which I'm pretty proud of. And I do acupuncture. I'm a professional tarot reader.
Really?
I do past life regressions. I create wearable crystal grid necklaces and bracelets. And actually, several people here in the chat have one of my pieces, which I'm always thankful for. Actually, someone has more than one. And yeah, I mean,
is it I'm not gonna name names. I'm not
possibly.
gonna name names, but is it possibly? Okay, so please continue. What kind of doggies do you got?
So I've got a Boston Terrier. What are you chewing on, young man? I hope he has a bone right now. He gets into naughty things. And then we have
I hope you're talking to your dog and not your husband.
No, he's at work. And then we have a little girl dog. Her name's Mimi, and we think that she's a Jack Russell and Dachshund mix. I ain't looking anywhere right now except you and you and you and you and you.
That's guilt. That's all I'll say. And your husband, what was his name again?
It's Frank, and he's a veterinarian, so he's a doctor, animal doctor. So, and our son is in 5th grade, which is
I love that because I have 5 dogs, 2 cats, and a husband.
Yeah, my husband's like spring
now,
animal.
I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and start with our first card, Jonathan. And as everybody knows, that is the Fool card. Now, the Fool card symbolizes new beginning, innocence, purity. Oh, you can't even see the Fool card. There you go. Purity, adventure, and rebellion. How would you say your journey started? With a sense of adventure or a sense of rebellion? Were you running to something or away from something on your spiritual journey?
I think I'd like to say it was adventure. I mean, my whole life has been nothing but adventure. I've always been seeking. Yeah, I'm a seeker. You know, I've always been one who always wanted to learn more. Um, I mean, my birth was an adventure in itself. I was born in Mexico because my parents wanted me to be able to run away if there was a draft when I was 18, and I ended up being born in a waterbed in Mexico. So,
That's clever.
and then when my parents got divorced when I was 3, my mother and I continued the adventure because, like, I half grew up in. Well, I mean, most of my childhood was California, but for a big chunk of it, also we had like winters and summers in Costa Rica, and then for several years it was 6 months, and then we spent a whole year in Costa Rica. So yeah, that little jungle boy running around barefoot on coral. So, and I mean, this is one of the reasons why I love where I live now so
Mm.
much. Big blend of the two places I grew up, which was California and Costa Rica.
And how old were you when you decided on a spiritual lifestyle? Because you are a healer, a tarot card reader. I've seen you on shows reading. What what age did that all come about, and what started it?
First, well, okay, I got my first deck when I was 13. It was a gift from my aunt. I was in summer camp and I got to take a New Age class, and the teacher taught us how to use runes and pendulums and the tarot and crystals and energy work. And he did my first past life regression, which got me all started with that. But even before that, I think I've always been exposed to that kind of stuff because of my mother. Even when I was young, like, she was a 5th grade teacher and I went to the same elementary school. Was I in 2nd grade? 2nd or 3rd grade? I can't remember exactly. She had a Native American shaman come from one of the indigenous tribes in the area that we lived to talk to her class, her 5th graders. And she got special permission for the from the principal for me to be able to join the experience. And we did an energy work circle with this shaman, and afterwards the shaman like approached my mother and was like, your son, he's strong in spirit, you need to nurture that. And so I think my mother's always been nurturing of my spiritual side, and I've had so many experiences that at this point I feel are just like common for me. But then I talk to other people about my experiences and they're a little taken aback by my life. So yeah.
Uh, Now, do you find that people who knew you before your spiritual path really took hold, always been, since you were young, a strong spiritual soul?
Well, I mean, I'm still in touch with several people from way back who were there when I was really diving deeper into the esoteric and everything. Like, I don't know if you know Jenna Matlin. She wrote "Will You
Hello?
give me a reading?" Um, she and I went to college together and started like a pagan student union. So yeah, the Pagan Alliance Network, PAN, right?
That's
um,
awesome. I did the same thing. That's funny you should say that. We did. We did the exact same thing in my high school. Okay.
hmm Pretty
Um,
amazing. So I mean, so for me, it's always
Spirituality
been.
is always difficult.
Mhm.
Um, would I think the question that I was going to ask on that is going to get answered farther on. So I'm going to hold back on my follow-up question on that.
Okay.
But I am going to switch cards right now to the magician, which is willpower, manifestation, creation, communication, and building something. I really love the communication aspect of this. When did you communicate to the world that you were just stepping out and becoming a full-time healer and practitioner and helper of humanity?
Mhm. Probably 2003 when I enrolled in acupuncture school. I mean, I'd always been there for people. I used to do tarot readings all the time for friends and family. People used to come to me to like for counseling. I mean, I've always seemed to be like, I've had random strangers on buses like regurgitate their life story, and they're like, "Why did I tell you that? I've never told anyone that story." Like it happens all the time. So I think it's just something I was born into. But I really embraced it when I started learning acupuncture.
Jonathan, while you tell that, I'm going to step out and enter again so that I can try to get rid of my lag. You keep talking about the question.
Okay. Oh, there's been a little lag between us, so I had to jump out and come back in, and it kind of helped a little. Uh, but yeah, so I had graduated with a degree in anthropology, didn't know what to do with myself. And we were out to dinner with a friend of the family. Yeah, she was getting acupuncture and Chinese herbs to deal with the fact she had breast cancer and was going through chemo radiation. And my mom was like, "That's it. That's what you should do." And it just so happens that like one of the best schools in California was just right around the corner from my mom's house. And so I ended up enrolling in 2020 or 2003. And one of the reasons I really wanted to go there is when I did a tour of the school, walking through the herb room. That was just like mind blowing in its own right. Like seeing a jar of dried seahorses, I was just like, okay, yeah, I need to be here just because it feels like Hogwarts. um, so yeah, it's been an interesting journey.
The magician teaches us that we can build anything we want to build. What was the first thing you decided when you were going to make it a career choice? What was your goal? What were you trying to build?
I was a little naive at the beginning because I thought, I could be everything for everybody, and that's just that's not a place to be. It took me a while to find my niche, but I mean, I did have some things that I really loved doing, like five element acupuncture, which is very different than TCM, which is traditional Chinese medicine. Um, I also well, I mean, when I opened my first office, it was just kind of like I just hanging up my shingle and seeing who's coming. And I think through time, I've kind of realized that like it's better to have a niche because then you're sought after for a specific thing instead of just being some random acupuncturist. Right. So one of the things I was
Agreed.
doing before times was I was doing acupuncture facials a lot. I love doing those, but then keeping up with all the creams and oils and everything was getting expensive, and then everything shut down, and so I kind of let that kind of go away. And right around the time of the pandemic, I decided I wanted to combine my acupuncture with past life regression, and so that's when I really started, I think, blossoming into the healer that I'm supposed to
Blossoming like a rose in the sun.
be. Or
Yeah, I
load it.
didn't come to that until I was late in life, so I admire you for that. Um, Now, next up, we have the high priestess. Now, the high priestess represents intuition, mystery, and the subconscious. When did you admit to yourself, I've got strong intuition? I mean, it's something we're all aware of growing up, but there comes a point in our lives, and everybody I've talked to where they're like, yep, nailed it. I've got strong intuition. At what point did it just like hit home? Yes, this is it.
I truthfully can't remember a time I didn't lean on my intuition, because my mother, like I said, always encouraged that. She always told me to listen to my intuition. So like when I was a kid and the phone rang, I always would be like, oh, that's grandma calling. And I was like, before there was any like caller ID or anything. And I was always right with whatever, like I was like, oh, that's grandma, or no, that's auntie, or like, and I was always right. Um, but as far as like being like, my like, oh God, this stuff, like I really do know this stuff, is when I started doing tarot readings. And it's just like people going, how do you know that? I'm like, I'm just telling you what the cards are telling me. So realizing that the cards were just kind of like a tool for my own intuition, really, I think that was the key. Plus, the High Priestess is actually my soul card. So yeah.
Oh, gotcha. See, mine is the Magician. We're right next to each other. I follow Hermes, and I've always associated him with the Magician card. Everything about the Magician card says Hermes. So, next step, we have the beautiful Empress, who embodies fertility, beauty, and abundance. When did things start taking off for you?
Um, Well, I mean, I feel like I always had someone asking for readings, but it's really only been since I started doing TarotTube and really putting myself out there as a professional. That's when I feel like it really started taking off. And I guess the night that really was the culmination of it all, was when I was the only tarot reader for an event here on Maui called Art Mix. And it's this huge interactive art installation slash interactive slash dance slash performance. Like it's hard to explain. It's kind of like a mini Burning Man in a way. And like realizing that
Oh, awesome.
I was sitting there for 4 hours and didn't even realize how fast the time went, because I was just like reading. Apparently my line never shrunk. Like it was a long line the whole night. And I read I truthfully lost count. I think somewhere between 40 and 45 people in that 4 hours. And that was just like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm here. I did
4 hours?
4 hours.
All right. When I do psychic fairs, maybe 14, 15 people. And even when I do that, I'm wiped for the next 2 days. And I could not imagine doing that many people in one sit down session. So kudos,
Oh, it was
my
insane.
friend.
It was insane. Yeah, I came with the sign that said 10-minute reading. And the woman who was in charge of the event was like, oh my God, what do you mean? 10-minute readings? That's only 6 people an hour. We can't do that. We need to do 3-minute readings. I was like, 3-minute readings? Who does 3-minute readings? I will do 5-minute readings. That's the shortest amount I will do. She's like, fine, okay, that's fine, whatever. And so
Okay.
yeah, it was bonkers. And like I finally like, oh God, I think I need a break.
You
And
can
it
give
was
a good reading in
4 hours.
5 minutes.
What was that?
That just blows my mind that you did that many readings at once. I think I would be a spiritual mess after that. Let's take it on to the mate of the Empress, the Emperor. This is structure, leadership, authority, and I froze again. Oh, there I am. Okay. um I'm not exactly. What does the emperor mean to you? Let's go this way.
What does the emperor mean to me? Well, just an aside real quick. Yeah, after those 45 readings, like I didn't talk for 2 days. um, but as far as what the emperor means to me is it's the structure of society personified is how I like to think of it. It's
I'm sorry. Repeat that. I just totally lagged out.
So for me, the emperor is the systems of society that keep society running personified in a single person, right? So he's the traffic lights. He's the farmers that make food for the city folk. He's the truckers that bring the food back and forth. So he is structure itself. He is infrastructure, right? But personified as a single father figure. So I mean, and then you get a little bit of that father energy too, where the father makes the rules, and he's also the one that disciplines when needed. He's the one that all the kings answer to, and in fact, the four kings are him in his four different roles, right? So yeah, the emperor is this grand overarching
And
structure.
how would you say the offense? How would you say the emperor card has affected your life? Where would you say the connection is?
Interesting enough, right before the pandemic, I was invited to this tarot party where everyone was picked to be a card, and I was picked to be the emperor for the party. So I feel like I've embodied him since then. It's
Interesting.
definitely it's taking a step back and seeing the big picture, so you know how all the pieces are moving, and the best way for them to move is how I think of it. It's that father that's keeping track of the
I'm getting
finances.
a sense of frustration from you as you're talking.
Well, probably because I also don't have I
Yeah,
never
I'm
had
getting a sense.
a with my father himself, so that might be coming through. Um, but
That's the main reason this card is difficult for me because of my father. He was the emperor. He was the in Spanish it's called chingon. He was 100% chingon, a 100% badass.
mhm.
He was a vato, a cholo. Um, frustration because you keep talking over him, Bobby. I know you're telling me. It's the lag. I can't tell when to speak. Um, I don't mean to, and I apologize.
No, it's fine.
The the Emperor, probably more than the Hierophant card, has been difficult for me because of my dad. Um, that is the most troublesome. And overall, how would you describe the relationship with your family growing up as a spiritual person?
Well, my parents got divorced when I was 3, so it's been pretty much me and my mom since then. And then my dad and we had visits, but they got further apart, and he moved further away until last time I saw him, I was 12, and then we just kind of drifted apart completely. Um, he actually passed in 2023, and it hit me harder than I was expecting it to. Just because he hasn't been in my life, so I didn't feel that I would have that kind of emotional response. But losing a father is losing a father. So because when he was alive, there was always that, like, maybe we could reconnect someday. Maybe, I don't know. Do I want to? That's the other question. But now that option is no longer there. So I think it was more grieving what could have been.
get the what you're saying. When my dad passed, he was abusive and an awful man growing up, but he was still my dad, and I loved him. I felt a lot of guilt over the relief I felt when he died, but since then I've been trying to heal our relationship. Just because he's dead doesn't mean I can't still talk to him. So I'm working on that, and it
Wow.
has been a difficult card for most readers. If it's not the Emperor card, it's this one right here. The next card up is the Hierophant. Um, the Hierophant is all about tradition, spirituality, and teachings.
Hmm.
Where did you learn to do what you're doing?
So my teachers, okay. So just preface this, Hierophant was always the card that I had the hardest time with because I was raised Jewish, and the Hierophant's always very Catholic looking, and I haven't really had the best interactions with Christians. So I think that's one of the reasons the Hierophant kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Um, but as far as my teachers, the first one would be my
Mhm.
mother, of course. Then there was Trigon, who was the teacher in summer camp who like taught all that new age stuff. Um, my aunt, who gave me my tarot. My grandmother, of course, she was a big. Well, some of her lessons were negative, but um, there was Lloyd Fulton when I was in college. He was an amazing man, and he loved telling the story of meeting Albert Einstein when he was little. um, and let's see,
Oh, that's
my
cool.
Chinese teachers in acupuncture school. The fact that most of my teachers in acupuncture school were Chinese is huge. It's one of the reasons I went to that school. I mean, I wanted to learn the medicine from the people. Um, and they were amazing. There's a list here for that alone. Um, and
A lot of
then
people throughout your life.
yeah, and I feel like everyone is a teacher in their own way, right? Even the patients that I see with through acupuncture are they teach me how to be more compassionate. They teach me patience, right? So I try to feel like a perpetual student. That's life, is being a perpetual student, really.
It's true. People don't realize how much the tarot readers get out of a tarot reading with their client. It can open up insight for us as well as for our clients, and I've always loved that. The next card up, ironically, is the Lovers, which symbolizes love, relationships, unions, and choices. How has um your belief system and lifestyle affected your relationships? I know you're married now, but prior
Mhm.
to that, how? Because I mean, I
Mhm.
used to get a lot of looks when I'd
Mhm.
say, tell people what I did or my spirituality, or you know.
Well, my husband is very much a skeptic. He rolls his eyes a lot at me, uh, but he also like gives
Mine
me the
too.
space to do my thing. So I love him for that. Uh, Previous relationship, he was actually very witchy himself, but it was a very toxic relationship. So that was not so good. The one before that was my college sweetheart, and he again pretty toxic. He was yeah, he went down a very dark path, and I lost track of him a long time ago. Uh, First boyfriend was, I think, even more spiritual than me. It was because of him I got to partake in the Naraya, which is
Wow.
the Saudi people's. version of the ghost dance. Yeah. So I got to do the Naraya in Wolf Creek, Oregon, because of my first boyfriend, and that really helped open up my spirituality even more. Um, so I think I've had several relationships that have helped me grow spiritually, and then other relationships where I feel like I helped them grow spiritually.
And has anybody ever just tried to stomp on your spirituality in the past? I've had that happen with relationships when literally they didn't like it, so they tried to put it out. And what happened was I stayed for the sex for a little while, but ultimately it just was never going to work out.
Right.
I can't be with
That'll
somebody
probably be
that's
my
going to
college.
stomp on my beliefs. Has anybody ever stomped on your belief system before?
That'll probably be my college boyfriend. I mean, he was kind of okay with it, but I think he had purposely blinded himself for this life, and I was making him see too much stuff, and so he was kind of like lashing out because of that in some ways. Um, it's because of him I had my first
That
nervous
makes sense.
breakdown. So, but that was a learning process.
That's an interesting that is an interesting point you bring up. People who live in liminal spaces like we do, half in reality, half in the spirit realm, it can be confusing for us to begin with. And then when society interjects their beliefs and dogma onto us, it can drive a lot of us a little batty. I myself have been had my nervous breakdown because I was just trying to be something I wasn't, and it was killing me. And it wasn't until I just put my foot down and said, y'all need to back off. This is who I am. If you don't like it, find a different friend, but this is me. And since then, my life has just been taking off. So it's very important that you never let anybody watching, if you're watching this, hey, listen to our words. Never let anybody stomp on your dreams or try to tell you who you are. Which brings us to the Chariot: determination, control, and willpower. Now, this can be a great card of controlling ourselves, but it can be a bad card when somebody else is trying to control you, trying to give you guidelines. The Hebrew letter associated with this is called chet, and it means chet. I know it means fence. It's the fence that keeps you on the straight and narrow. So when somebody else tries to guide your path, it's just going to mess everything up for everybody. Has anybody else tried to make you go in a direction you didn't want to go?
Well, of course, I've always had the proselytizers trying to, get me to church and stuff. But I mean, even in high school, there was a girl that refused to dress up for Halloween because it was the devil's holiday. And like, I made the mistake of telling her I was reading this fantasy novel about this princess who woke up and had magic or something. The next day, she brings her Bible with all these like passages marked to like sit me down and be like, okay, this is why you shouldn't be playing with magic. Magic is the devil's work, blah, blah, blah. And she's like preaching at me. And I'm just like, it's a freaking fantasy novel. What is your problem? Like, I understand it's just a fantasy novel. Do you not understand that? I mean, she's like, oh, but magic, any kind of magic is bad, even fantasy novels. I'm like, so yeah.
Well, people lost their minds when Harry Potter came out. Remember that?
Oh, I remember.
We're waiting in line. What has been your biggest challenge controlling yourself, would you say? Right?
Controlling myself? Probably.
What would you say your biggest challenge in controlling yourself has been?
Probably my habit of collecting. I've got way too many crystal skulls, way too many decks, way too many books. Of course, you can never have too many, right? So yeah, that's where
I was gonna say, can you have too many? Really? I'm a collector too. I collect tarot cards. This is just my working deck behind me. Okay, this This is my working stack of cards. The other 50, 60 are hanging on the walls throughout the house.
Once I started my
So
YouTube channel,
please tell me more.
I rocketed up to like hundreds of decks. I have probably over 700 decks at this point. So
Right. See, now I'm not that bad yet. I'm still only under 100. I know that much. I haven't counted, but it's under 100. And the only reason it's that low is because I told my husband I wouldn't buy any more decks unless I absolutely needed them. So every now and I come home and I say, but I needed it. I really, I needed it. Like, I came home with a Hocus Pocus deck the other day. Who doesn't need a Hocus Pocus deck? You absolutely have to have it. Come on.
oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm
Let's be
surrounded by
real.
decks here too.
It's the coolest deck. I got to admit, I wasn't expecting to like it, but it gives me the giggles. So our next card up is going to be Strength, and this is Courage, Inner Strength, and Resilient. Shenanigans is here. What's up, Shenanigans?
Current love.
I can't wait for my Cat Full of Spiders deck. What is that?
Cat full of spiders.
Oh.
That's wait.
Oh.
That vaguely familiar.
Right? I'm gonna. I don't know this. Shenanigans. When you get it, show me. I want to see. Hell, you can come on my show and we'll talk about it. I want to play with that deck now.
Unboxing video. Boxing video.
So, absolutely. She says, I pre-ordered it on Amazon. Okay, excellent. Miss Tarot D and Ramon were using a deck the other day. Or Miss Tarot D was. It's the Rider-Waite Smith, but vintage looking with gold around the outsides. And I really liked it. So as soon as we got off, I ordered that deck. I hate doing these shows because almost every time I've done a show with somebody, I end up ordering a deck that night that they have used. It's not that I want to, I have to. She says, you bet, my friend. Absolutely.
I've got several decks you want to see.
That is my crack cocaine. I mean, people just don't understand. You know, I go into the store and they got new decks and I'm like running around like this. Absolutely. When have you had to show the most inner strength throughout your path? When did you have to reach down and just say, all right, time to get my Kundalini in hand and just go for it?
I think moving. Every time I move, I really have to like dig deep because it is the most stressful, aggravating, painful experience. I hate moving, and that takes all my strength to get through. I hate it. I'm like that with crystals.
I don't blame you. Moving's traumatic. Yeah, I love Maru because, okay, here's the thing. I've asked Maru to be on my channel before. She always has the knowledge. When somebody says something about a crystal, Maru says, oh yeah, this. If you have, she says, oh yeah, this. And then she says, I don't know why you want to talk to me, girl, because you know what you're talking about. That's why, you know. I digress. The inner strength can be difficult for a lot of people to find. Did you ever doubt your inner strength at any point?
Ooh, that's a deep question. Have I ever doubted my strength? Well, yeah, I mean, part of having to like step forward and like speak in front of people, or even starting a YouTube channel, I have that imposter syndrome kick in, where I'm like, well, who am I to tell anybody anything? And I think that is when I feel the least inner strength, is when I like get up to speak and the imposter syndrome is telling, like, whispering in my ear, like, who are you to be telling anybody anything? And yeah, so
I
that
get that. Imposter syndrome is a real thing that people don't get, especially when you're trying to start a channel or something like this, because you're basically jumping off a cliff and you don't know what's at the bottom. You don't know if you're going to fly. You don't know if you're going to fall, but you jump. When I started my channel, it was with the encouragement of Chris Butler. I don't think I'd have a channel today if Chris Butler hadn't been so encouraging with me. I met him right before the Oracle of the Hecatan Path came out. I was a fan of the Healing Light Tarot, and it just, that deck meant so much to me that I wrote him a letter and we ended up talking. But my point was, encouragement matters. Who has given you the most encouragement throughout your life?
No, I have to say my mother, of course. She's always been the most encouraging. My guides, my spirit guides, I think, are the most encouraging. I have to listen to them more than anybody else, because I get in this habit of like feeling like I need to either get approval or acceptance before I can do something. And my spirit guides will always step in and be like, no, 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 do the thing, and then you get the acceptance. I'm like, oh, okay. So, I mean, yeah. And then, of course, there's certain chatters, like Gerald's been very supportive of me, amazingly so. And others.
He was my very first interview. He has been an incredible. Sorry, I'm talking over you again.
It's okay. It's hard to have a conversation with lag, isn't there?
Yeah. The next card up is actually the Hermit, for introspection, wisdom, and solitude. There was a point in my life I ended up getting really, really sick around 2016, the end of it. And we didn't know if I have what's called valley fever. And for the most part, it doesn't bother people. It's out here in Arizona. It's in the ground. Everybody gets it. But for 1%, it's fatal. Hello, I'm 1% of the population. So it almost killed me. That made me pull back and reevaluate everything in my life. Have you ever had a oh shit moment like that, where you just had to stop everything and pull back?
Yes. About a year ago, after my second bout with COVID and after the fires here on Maui, I went to the gym to try and work out. I haven't been to the gym since then, actually. And I don't know what was going on with me. I think it was still too much like remnants of COVID or something. But 5 minutes into working out, I thought they were going to have to call the ambulance for me. I've been dealing with long COVID ever since. And like, I've had to be very gentle with myself for the last like year and a half, because of like literally not having the energy, not having the brain power, literally forgetting things in the middle of saying it, having the wrong words popping out. So I have to like slow down my speech sometimes, so I'm not like stuttering over my words, because that's usually when the wrong words start coming out. I have to be very mindful of how much physical activity I do, because I still have the little bit of the COVID fatigue, and if I overdo it, like, I'm wiped for days. But at the same time, I gotta try and like, I gotta do housework. I gotta like, and even housework sometimes it's like, I'll be carrying the laundry upstairs and get to the top of the stairs and literally have to sit down on the top step because I just like, I'm either going to sit down or pass out. That's so, that I think has been pretty humbling.
Yeah, about 3 years ago, right about the time COVID started, my body started giving out more to where now I get up and I walk like an old man for about 5 steps for real small. I can't move.
Mhm.
Yeah, my body especially is telling me, "Bitch, you can't do that anymore. Calm your tits." Um, and I hate that.
Mhm.
So next up, we have the Wheel of Fortune. The Wheel of Fortune is all about natural cycles, natural endings, natural beginnings, not like the death card where it's sudden. How do you handle change?
Um, Change is one of those weird things. Some change is startling and like almost too much to deal with. Other change, I feel, is something that I have pursued, embraced, caused to happen, and that kind of change I feel is more subtle, more smooth. Whereas sudden change, which is like completely out of your control, that is such a shock to the system that sometimes it takes a little while. I always try and just stay calm no matter what, and just deal with what comes when it comes, because you never know what surprise is around the corner. And I, that, the wheel's always turning, right? So you never know what's coming. Um, but I try, like I said, I try just to remain calm
So
no
would you
matter what.
say you accept up and down regular? It's the people who try to fight the natural cycles that I notice have the most trouble in life. But the people who go with the flow tend to be able to navigate things easier. Um, and it just breaks my heart sometimes when you see natural things occurring and people are beating their heads into the ground trying to figure out what happened. Well, honey, this is let's pick yourself up and try to find a way to go on. Um, where the Wheel of Fortune is a turning point in life. And come on, there we go. Just signifies fairness, balance, and truth. I love justice because it's a Libra card. Libra balance has always been a huge thing with me. My mom was a Libra, so from the time I can remember, balance was a big thing. I have to have balance in my life. She stressed balance with everything. How do you find balance? And
Well,
what brings
uh,
you balance, I should say?
I've also been one who has always been obsessed with balance. It's one of the reasons why I became an acupuncturist. It's all about balancing the chi, right? Um, and as far as Libras go, like my aunt's a Libra, and in tropical astrology, my moon's in Libra. So, I'm all about trying to find that balance. I think part of the reason I am the way I am is because I'm always trying to find that middle ground, that balancing point where like no matter what is going on, you can just kind of sway with it. Because if you're too far on one side or the other and it's doing like this, then you're flying, right? But if you can find that middle ground, even if it's bouncing, you're just kind of surfing the wave, I guess is the best way to describe it. I don't, yeah. And for me, uh,
Spoken like a true Hawaiian.
the only constant is change, right? So uh balance is not like you're going to find your balance and then that's it. Balance is an ongoing, never ending juggling act, like Two of Pentacles, right?
Balance can be hard to find for people. A lot of the time we tell people you need to go out and find balance, but they don't always know what we're talking about when we say that. So I had to learn to change my words a long time ago, luckily. Um, have you had problems relaying your thoughts to your clients? Wait, let me rephrase this. I know what I'm trying to say. I just can't put it into words properly. People don't always take our advice in the way it's intended. Have you ever had somebody apply the advice you had given them during a reading in the wrong way?
Yes. I guess the best story I have for this is this woman reached out. She wanted a reading. I went to her house. I gave her a reading, and she wanted to know would it be better to stay where she was or move back to the mainland to be with her family. And I gave her a reading, and it was pretty, like, pretty apparent that if she stayed, it wouldn't be the best thing for her. Going home would like help her get her feet on the ground. She did not. She ended up like moving to a different place instead of staying where she was. And then she like confronted me on the street, like, "Hey, your reading was wrong." I'm like, what? She's like, "Yeah, I stayed." I'm like, well, yeah, you chose a third path. You were asking about these two paths and then chose a third one. So why are you complaining to me? I showed you what would be. You chose a different path.
Right.
Not set in stone. Like, it's not predictive. It's not set in stone. This is just the most likely thing to happen. And then just probably, I don't know, maybe a month ago, I run into her again and she's like, "I should have listened to you in the reading." And that was like the last, and then I haven't seen her since. I'm just like, okay.
That's true. Okay. I've got to try to do this because this is bothering me. Okay, there. Yeah, I want my little symbol over my head. This is really, it's one of those small details that was bothering me. The Hanged Man is the next card we have up. Where's my picture? There's my picture. Okay. My little card. Surrender, perspective, and sacrifice. What is the biggest sacrifice you've had in your spiritual path?
Biggest sacrifice. Well, I think becoming a parent is a huge sacrifice in a lot of ways because you're giving up your life to take care of someone who can't take care of themselves. So for me, I think the biggest sacrifice was becoming a parent. I had to put my own life aside so I could take care of this little infant that needed me to wipe his butt, feed him, bathe him while he started to learn and become a human. Of course, now he's 10 and talks back sassy and all, but you
Okay,
know.
that's your husband, but now what about your baby?
So yeah, no, my husband is 53.
We've always wanted to have kids, so I admire that you have kids and you've taken on that responsibility. We have always wanted kids. My cousin, who is incapacitated right now, has children that, well, I don't want to say too much on that. But keep my fingers crossed. The Hanged Man is surrender. Surrender. Has there ever been a point in your life when you're like, all right, I give, you win?
Several. The one that popped in my head first, though, is actually being at the Naraya and like feeling like spirit. I kept getting taken by spirit over and over. And it was this experience of letting go of my naivete and embracing my true power, I guess is the best way to describe it. But by sacrificing my my unknowing and my childhood, basically, I feel like it was like a rite of passage into manhood in a lot of ways. I felt like I was sacrificing my childhood to really embrace the
That
man
makes
who I was
sense.
supposed to be. You know. And then as far as more current,
Um,
probably moving out here to Hawaii. Like, it wasn't my idea originally; it was my husband. But then I surrendered to the idea, and now I couldn't imagine living anywhere else. So,
so it was a good move. I'll admit, a lot of the times I can feel the universe hurting me in a certain direction to where I need to be somewhere. It doesn't mean I'm not going to fight it. I wish I could surrender more easily to the universe and not get knocked around quite so much, but okay, so that was the Hanged Man. Now, the next card up, we've got the Death card. Now, the Death card represents endings, transformations, rebirth. What does the Death card mean to you, and how does it apply to your life?
well, speaking of endings, I have about 30 minutes left, and then I got to go because I have an acupuncture patient coming.
Yeah, I'm
But
gonna try to get through these cards real quick. We're gonna keep the answers
so
fairly
death for me,
compact.
death has been an intimate part of my life. When I was in college, every year someone close to me died. I've worked with ancestors for many, many years. I embraced death in a lot of ways just because I know it's inevitable. None of us are going to escape it. So the little deaths of things, like being able to let go of those things that no longer serve us so that we make room for the things that are trying to come in to help, I don't know, help with our ascension, I guess is the best way of putting it. Because, we're trying to ascend as spiritual beings. And I feel like death in that sense is like being able to say goodbye to parts of yourself that time has passed. So
Absolutely. We can't drag crap with us. Readers, especially. Here's something I tell my clients that they just can't follow. Once you get up from my table, or once I lay those cards down and ring that bell symbolizing closing and clearing away negative energy, I don't keep your reading in my brain. I don't keep a record of your reading. I take a picture and send it to my clients. I can't keep everybody's readings with me. I tried that for a long time back in the day, and it was driving me nuts. We can't carry everybody else's baggage. And people don't realize that when they come in and say, "Oh, last year you did a reading for me. Remember what you said?" And I'm like, "No, I don't remember anything about that."
right?
I forget where I was going with this, but it was a cute story. Harmony, balance, moderation, healing more so. I love the healing aspect. Where did the acupuncture come in?
So acupuncture, there was a few ways I ended up with the path to acupuncture. When I was still in undergrad school and getting my degree in anthropology, one of my last classes was the anthropology of medicine. And in that class, we pretty much did a pretty big study on Western versus Eastern medicine. And so there was a lot of Chinese medicine in that class, and it kind of intrigued me. And then when I moved back home, because I didn't know what to do with a degree in anthropology, my mom and I was out to dinner with a friend of the family who was having chemo radiation for breast cancer, and she was getting acupuncture and Chinese herbs, and that she said it saved her life. And that's when I realized that that's kind of what I was being drawn to. Hi, Gina. So yeah, that's what I mean. I started. Good Lord, it's been almost 22 years since I started my acupuncture schooling. So yeah, it's been a while.
What would you say to somebody who's scared of needles?
So my needle is not like getting a shot from a doctor. Okay. I don't know if you're one of those kids that used to put like the safety pin through your hand or whatever. There's always that one kid with like the safety pin through their finger. Similar to that, like you can fit a bunch of acupuncture needles inside a hypodermic needle. So the needle that the doctor uses is hollow. That's why it hurts, because it's literally like punching out a little slug of skin. My needles are solid. They just slide in and slide out. Most people don't feel anything, and if they do feel something, it's kind of like a mosquito bite that doesn't itch. Unless the person's a bad acupuncturist and hitting nerves, and you're gonna like electricity. But yeah, so it's not. It's nothing to be fearful of. But then again, I mean,
That
fear is an internal thing you need to work on. Because I've had people who are like covered in tattoos tell me, "Oh, acupuncture? No, I don't do needles." I'm like, "You're tattooed. What? My needles are nothing compared." Like, oh no, I can't stand the
that's
idea.
me. I've got tattoos everywhere. That's exactly it. I'm terrified of needles, but I'm covered in tattoos. Don't ask me to explain it. All right. So
Well, the person
we're going to
who
move
taught
on with our next question, because I know time is essential here. We've got the devil card. Okay.
and
The
do
devil
some fun, go get
symbolizes
acupuncture.
temptation, materialism, and control. What has
Have a
been
good
the
session.
hardest thing? Right? What is the biggest temptation you've had in your life?
The biggest temptation, Kickstarter decks. I was so bad during the pandemic. I was backing everything right and left. It was so, need to reel myself back.
Yeah, the pandemic was bad on my pocketbook. I learned a new career. I took up run art, which is beautiful and fun, but it's so expensive. We are going to keep going. The tower represents upheaval, sudden change, and revelation. What was the biggest lightning bolt to hit your life that just threw everything into disarray?
Well, other than the pandemic, I would say that the fires here last year, like, I don't know if I'll ever recover from those fires. Like, because people don't understand, like, almost the entire island was on fire. There was a fire a mile away from our house, and I was just sitting there looking at all my decks going, what am I supposed to save? What? Oh my God, all my decks are just strewn. All my precious ones that I can never replace are just here, there, and everywhere. And what happens if we have to evacuate? Yeah, that was terrifying. Especially seeing a whole town just vanish overnight.
I don't doubt it. I mean, for those of us that were watching on television, it looked horrifying. I can only imagine what it would have been like to be in it. So I'm glad you are safe. The moon card is no, we never did hit the star card, did we? The star card symbolizes hope, inspiration, and renewal. I know the fires were an awful thing. But now you've got the chance for renewal. How has things been since the fire in Hawaii and for you specifically?
It's been pretty rough, truthfully. I've seen so many businesses close in the last year. It's like mind-boggling. Like some of these businesses have been around for decades. Um, and with people not coming, because people are coming to Hawaii, but they're not coming to Maui, with that lack of tourism dollars, the whole economy is starting to collapse, basically. Um, but at the same time, it's like there's not, like with Lahaina gone, people aren't drawn here as much. Um, so yeah, uh, for me, the best thing for like getting out of that mindset of just being stuck and feeling like you need hope is getting out into nature, seeing how like the forests that were burning now have like so much growth. It's unreal. Um, and just being able to
Mhm.
like during the pandemic being able to go swimming and being surrounded by sea turtles because they had no fear of humans because there was nobody around, that was magical too. So I feel like anytime I need that renewal,
Right.
that that hope, I have to take myself out into nature. So
I didn't realize how much nature has been missing from my life until my sister came out for a visit a few weeks ago and took me hiking. And it just changed everything within me. The moon card is our next guest. I'm supposed to be following along with these cards. I'm not. Okay, here we go. The moon card. It's not like you could see any. Okay. Subconscious show on blast like this, but what is in the back of your head that you're working towards?
um I have so many projects, it's ridiculous. I need to finish writing the guidebook for my dark light runes. I need to finish putting together my group coaching class for past life healing that I want to do. Um, I need to figure out a good advertising campaign to try and get more acupuncture past life regression clients. So yeah, I got a lot on my plate. Plus, I am the secretary of my HOA board, so that gives me way too much stuff to deal with. Um, so yeah, I'm juggling. I juggle a lot because I'm also like the main
You're
caretaker
an
of our
active
kids.
man.
I'm a little too active.
Um, I'm excited that you've got so much coming out. Is that where you find your joy?
I find my joy in definitely the act of creation, but I also find joy in just simply being with friends and family and just being able to talk and laugh and just enjoy being with each other. I think that's where I get most of my joy is that social interaction, that like that time with friends and family where you're nurturing each other. That's where I get my joy from.
When did you realize? Okay, when I say spiritualist, it's kind of an all-encompassing word, but spiritualism in this sense, when I'm speaking with you, I'm looking at you as a tarot card reader providing insights into people's lives. I'm looking at you as an acupuncturist providing healing. Um, there comes a point when we have to say, I am this to ourselves. And for me, saying, I am a psychic was just difficult for me to say. Was it difficult for you to say I'm a healer?
It's kind of funny because I came up with this really obnoxious long title just because I was trying to cram as much of what my spiritual path was into like one thing, and it's ridiculous. But so I call myself a Jewish, Buddhist, Taoist, witchy, pagan, druidic, shaman mystic.
I see. And I hope you don't have to pay by the letter for that.
At this point, you can just call me,
Um,
the mystic on Maui.
The Mystic on Maui, the Maui Mystic. I like that. I went to the store the other day to try to find some Maui Wowie, but that's a whole nother story. The next
That
card
is a
up, we
mouthful coming
have Judgment. Oh, look at that. We're already at Judgment. Judgments. Yeah, it symbolizes rebirth, judgment, and an inner calling. Now, when I see the Judgment card, we've already been talking about your inner calling, but
out.
what you made mention of being a teacher. When did you feel that call to be a teacher, to pass on that knowledge?
I think I've been a teacher in so many lifetimes. It's just ingrained in me, truthfully, because I've had psychics tell me, "Oh, you've been a teacher." I was Linda de Gonzalez. I asked her, "Hey, have I ever had any lives on Lemuria?" Knowing that I probably have, and she of course said, "There's lots, but the one I'm picking up is the one where you were a teacher of herbs." And I'm just like, "Yeah, okay, here we go again." So yeah, I have been a teacher for so many lifetimes that it's just I can't help myself. Um, and in the before times, we even had like a Tarot 101 class at the spa that I was working at. That's actually how I really got like enmeshed with Betsy Palmer so much. She was one of my students for that class, and then we started doing YouTube
Right.
together. Yeah, so that was fun. I kind of miss being able to teach, but that's kind of why I want to do the group coach thing. The Maui Mystic, yes. The Mystic on Maui. I like the Maui Mystic. That's just
I
flows really well.
love that. Everybody, we've got one card left, but before I hit that last card, I want to see what's going on in chat real quick. Okay. Yeah, the Maui Mystic is my new favorite saying. So we're down to our last card, Jonathan. Yay, Mazel Tov,
Oh
you made
wow,
it.
you did it.
The world represents
Hello.
completion, achievement, and fulfillment. Yeah, we did it. Um, the world is a misnomer, in my opinion, because things never end. They just keep going in a different fashion. When we talk about goals, but if you add all the little goals that we have together and add them up, it creates a picture. What is the big picture you were trying to create for yourself in the future?
That is a good question. So I gotta think about my 5-year plan. Is that what we're doing here? So I just wanted to touch on the whole world thing, the fact that there's a cycle around
Yeah, let's
Earth.
do the 5-year plan. It's a good way. It's actually a good way to look at it.
So I think the world is just reminding us that
I like
it's
that
an
card.
ever lasting circle. It's a cycle, right? We always go through cycles. So for my 5-year plan, I hope to have a nice thriving business, giving people acupuncture past life regressions. For those of you who can't come to Maui, doing like a group online coaching specifically to do past life work. And I'm always available if anyone wants wearable crystal grid necklaces. That's always fun. I love
I
doing those.
actually have a question about it. Can you do past lives um, sessions, deep sessions over the internet?
Sure, I've done it. During the pandemic, I did a few times over Zoom. Um, so what I would do is record the session so they come back and watch it a few times, and then the like guided meditation is part of the session too. So if they wanted to, they could just play that section and do it again themselves. Um, but yeah, I mean, I haven't had any issues over the internet. Don't it as long as you have done work and your energy centers are open and you're open to receiving the wisdom, no problem. I mean, I've had people in person not get anything out of the session because they're just so blocked that it wouldn't matter. I mean, we were there hand in hand. There was a woman, I think it was like 2 weeks ago. I did a past life acupuncture past life regression for her. No one's never had nothing. She had nothing. Nothing came through for her. And I was just like, what? And then we start. So I'm like, okay, well, let's switch to cards because obviously this isn't working for you. Um, so through the cards, we realized that she had been betrayed. That's why, like, that life, what she didn't want to remember that life because it was a horrific one, truthfully. I mean, that's part of the problem. Past life work is shadow work, is the best way to put it. Because you are gonna be confronted with either you went through some trauma and it's still affecting you now, or maybe you were the perpetrator of trauma on others. So people have a hard time seeing that, seeing themselves as the bad guy, right? So yeah, where was I going with that?
See,
But I
I'm
feel
the
like,
opposite. I have trouble seeing myself as the good guy.
oh, mhm.
You are a fairly interesting man, Jonathan Dailey. Here's an interesting thing about the world card. When you made note about the outside, the world card is associated with Saturn. That's how I always remember because it's got the ring around it.
Mhm.
Saturn on the tree of life is the sphere of Binah, the mother sphere, where things are born. So, although this is an ending, it's the birth of something new. Um, that's why I say it's a misnomer. This thing is labeled wrong. Somebody needs to make a complaint. This is not the end. This is the birth of something new, and I hate that sometimes. It just doesn't end. Um, where you going from now, my friend?
Well, just touching bases on that complaint you just had, that's one of the reasons I really love the Shimmering Veil Tarot, because there's a 0 Fool and there's a 22 Fool. So there's two Fools. There's the Fool at the beginning of the journey, and then there's the Fool at the end of the journey. So that you're realizing that the Fool's journey just starts over again.
Really?
So, where am I going from here? Well, let's see. I need to finish getting ready for
Yeah,
an acupuncture
absolutely. And
appointment. I I am trying to. So this whole issue with writing a guidebook for me for my runes is the fact that this was a system that kind of like downloaded to me, and I'm trying to like translate like feelings and knowledge into words on paper, and it's just been kind of obnoxious. But I mean, just a small taste. You got water on one side, cups on the other. Um,
those are cool.
it's got sunrise and sunset for beginnings and endings. Um, all seeing eye with the spiral labyrinth. So, I mean, there's a ton of stuff. There's 13 discs, and they all have paired runes, and they're meant to be tossed on top of a tarot reading. But it seems simple. There's 13 discs, there's 26 runes. but then there's the light side, dark side, how many lights show up versus, so there's a duality to it. And then depending on what falls on what card, it's like I can read it when I'm doing it, but trying to translate it into a system for others to use, that's where the stumbling blocks are. But that's what my focus is right now. And then also the group past life healing sessions, so our class. Yep. Oh, and she has a good point.
Yeah. She says in tarot, the end is the beginning. It never ends. That's my point. It pisses me off when people say that it's the end. It's not. Okay. Don't try to tell me it's over. It's just going to start over. Anyway. And ending. Yeah. What have you got coming up as far as YouTube?
Well, I have some things in the works, so don't forget to subscribe. This Friday, I will be over on Heather's channel.
Yes, everybody, please like and subscribe.
And we are going to be doing a
channel. I've
painting
totally forgot to put it up, but I will put your site. Nice. I will put your link in the bio. Jonathan, thank you for taking the time to talk with me today. I appreciate it. And I would like in the future just to get together and pull cards with you sometime if you're open to that.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Totally. I've got
okay. So I want to thank everybody for watching. If you're watching this on replay, please check the description box for Jonathan's channel. What were you going to say, my friend?
Oh, I was just going to say it's always fun to pull out decks and play, right?
Honestly, I'm going to do that later on today. Once I get some food in me, I'm going to come back out and just play around with my decks online and see what happens. No set, go.
I need to get Ange back on my channel for some casting.
For those who don't know, I have a tarot 2 weeks. It's going into beta. I want to say thank you, and Jonathan, thank you.
Oh,
and I'm going to go ahead and end this show.
Bye, everyone. Aloha.
All right, everybody. Thanks, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye. I think I did it.